Take you to a live briefing then. The National Energy Regulator of South Africa is announcing its decision on the Eskom tariff application of 32%. Last year, the Gauteng High Court granted the regulator an extension to make the final decision on Eskom's revenue application for 2023-2024. Let's take you live to that announcement.
Nersa, Mr. Tembani Pokula. Mr. Pugula, I would appreciate if you can just switch on your camera to show your face, if possible. Mr. Pugula? Okay, I think Mr. Pugula will show his face later. And we also have the Chief Executive Officer of Nersa, Advocate Nomalanga Sithole. CEO, if you are able to show your face, you can switch on your camera, if possible. If not, there you are. Thanks, you. Thanks a lot. I know you had some network challenges. And lastly, we have the full-time regulator member, primarily responsible for electricity regulation, Mr. Nhlanhla Gumede. Mr. Gumede, if you can also switch on your camera to show your face. Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Thank you. Without further ado, I will now hand over to the Chief Executive Officer of Nersa, Advocate Sithole, to take us through the Nersa mandate with regards to considering Eskom's revenue applications. Over to you, CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Hlabela. I'll try and use my camera. If I have challenges, I will switch it off. Good afternoon, members of the Energy Regulator, representatives of different media houses, and all those that have joined us remotely. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important as a start to indicate that the National Energy Regulator is established in terms of the National Energy Regulator Act of 2004, with the primary role to carry out regulatory functions contained in the Electricity Act of 2006, the Petroleum Pipeline Act of 2003, and the Gas Act of 2001. The Energy Regulator, which is made out of 9 members, has the final approval powers to applications made in line with the provisions of its governing legislation for the regulated industries, as well as powers to approve tools and methodologies developed in terms of its governing legislation. With regard to the Eskom's revenue application, Eskom submitted its 5th multi-year price determination, which was based on the 2016 MYPD methodology. And this was submitted on the 2nd of June 2001 to Nersa, and the application was for a period of 3 years. There were various court processes which were instituted leading to the consideration of the Eskom's revenue application for the years 2023-24 and 2024-25. It is fundamental in the existence of Nersa as a statutory body to ensure that its exercise of power is based on its enabling legislation, failing which the exercise of its power falls to be reviewed on application by any interested and affected party. Therefore, the decision taken by the Energy Regulator today has been checked against the rationality and legality principles. The Energy Regulator is satisfied that it has performed its function and taken a decision in compliance with the Electricity Act and as well as the 2016 MYPD methodology, and any other applicable tool that has been approved by the regulator. It is also important to indicate that the decision has been taken against the backdrop of difficult conditions such as slow economic growth, job losses, load shedding, and high cost of living. These factors have been balanced against the sustainability of Eskom, the regulatory certainty, and compliance with the Electricity Regulation Act. Lastly, it should be noted that Nersa remains committed in ensuring the orderly development of the electricity industry and to be supportive of government initiatives to make the energy industry better and to ensure that the quality of supply and quality of service within the electricity industry improves. At this point, I would like to thank you all and hand over to the Program Director, Tate Hlebela. You may proceed. Thanks.
Thanks, CEO, for sharing with us Nersa's mandate with regards to Eskom's revenue application. I'll now request the chairperson of Nersa, Mr. Thembani Pukula, to give us or to announce the decision. Over to you, Mr. Pukula.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hlebela. Distinguished guests, fellow regulator members, members of the media, members of Nersa staff, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. May I welcome you all to this media briefing to announce the Energy Regulator's decision on Eskom's fifth multi-year price determination, or MYPD5 as we call it, which covers the revenue applications for the years 23-24 and 24-25 financial years. Ladies and gentlemen, may I just take you through a brief background on the application. As the CEO has already mentioned, the application was submitted on the 22nd of June 2021, and an updated version was submitted on the 14th of September 2022. And it was really mainly driven by the following areas in the application. First one being your regulated asset base, primary energy, operating costs, costs of independent power producers, your depreciation, levies and taxes, as well as the court orders that had to be implemented on this decision. It is therefore important to indicate that the regulator made its decision after considering due processes, which included publishing the Eskom application on the Nersa website and inviting public comments. And the Energy Regulator conducted public hearings to solicit comments from interested and affected parties. Eskom's application was published on the 29th of July 2022, and the public was given until the 8th of September 2022 to make written comments. Public hearings were held between the 19th to the 23rd of September 2022, and we received more than 2,000 written applications or written comments. I do not want to mention the names, but I do want to indicate that it was from various agricultural organizations, various environmental organizations, most of the municipalities, including Salga, your energy intensive users, the organization of Undoing Tax Abuse, and the South Devon Community Environmental, and many others. And I do want to thank and acknowledge that we received those comments and we have considered them in making this decision. It is therefore important to indicate that Eskom's revenue application for the years 2023, 2024, and 2024, 2025 were being considered under several economic challenges. I think the CEO has mentioned weak economic growth, a fiscal deficit, rising government debt, declining household income and wealth, declining private and public sector investments, high levels of unemployment, the effects of COVID-19, low industrial production, and the recent implementation of load shedding. These challenges are expected to affect the South African economy activity in the short, medium, and even longer term. and depending on the changes implemented to correct these imbalances. All of these challenges mentioned above have been taken into consideration by the energy regulator when we were making the decision. So, ladies and gentlemen, based on the information that was at our disposal and the analysis of the information given by Eskom for their MYPD5 revenue application, the regulator at its meeting of the 12th of January made the following decisions. 1, the approved allowable revenues must be recovered from both your Eskom standard customers and non-standard tariff customers, including the negotiated pricing agreements and international customers. And these will be based on the previously approved tariff principles as detailed in the Eskom tariff, retail tariff structural adjustments methodology, which has been approved by Nersa. Number 2, regarding the 2023-2024 financial year, Eskom's revenue application is for 351 billion rand, which includes the regulatory clearing account balances and the implementation of the court order. Nersa has approved the allowable revenue of 318 billion rand after making various adjustments. For the year 2024-2025, Eskom's revenue application is 381 billion rand, including the RCA and the court order with respect to the government injection. Nersa approved the revenue of 352 billion rand after extracting efficiencies and adjusting where required. Therefore, Nersa has approved a total revenue, allowable revenue of 300 billion rand for the year 2023-2024 financial year, and this translates to 173.80 cents per kilowatt hour, or 173.80 cents per kilowatt hour, and that translates to a percentage increase of 18.65 based on the currently approved Nersa tariff of 146.48 cents per kilowatt hour for the year 22-23. For the year 24-25, Nersa has approved a revenue of 334 billion rand, which translates to 195.95 cents per kilowatt hour, resulting in a 12.74% increase based on the year of the tariff that was approved previously. The energy regulator will consider the Eskom retail tariff structural amendments or adjustments for the year 2023-2024 that will be submitted by Eskom after this approval. The regulator will subject all of the approved costs to further extensive prudency reviews and efficiency tests, and look at whatever other performance thresholds that can be imposed. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to indicate that the energy regulator has attempted to strike a balance amongst Eskom's financial sustainability issues, the impact on the South African economy, and affordability of electricity services to customers. May I, at this point, hand over to Mr. Gumede, who will take us through the details of the discussion and of the decision, and he will also deal or handle all of the questions that may arise after this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. And thank you, CEO. Thank you, Mr. Tlabela. To facilitate the discussion, I would like to share a presentation so that at least as we talk the numbers, we would be able to see where the numbers are coming from, the form that they're taking. I think this is presentation. Assuming that it is visible on your side.
Yes, yes, it is. It is visible.
All right. No, thank you. Chairperson, members of the regulator, members of staff, members of the media, I would like to then give you the details of firstly the application itself, as well as the actual decision, which was an extremely difficult decision. So I'm putting the wrong one. So to start, I just thought that I'd actually start by recapping on what the actual application was. As you can see, the application, and we are considering only the last 2 years of this application. The application was first made on 2nd of June 2021, as indicated, following the methodology which is known as MYPD4 methodology. So this was the application. It has got a number of areas. The key areas, I think the key drivers that I would just like to indicate here are that, as you can see, the biggest driver here is primary energy, followed by IPPs, and also sort of in same league, is also in the same order, the operating costs. So those in the main were the drivers for this application. And of course, it's linked to that would be depreciation, because that is linked to the value of the assets. So that was the application that was received by Nersa. In considering the application, Nersa made a number of adjustments. Just want to indicate where the adjustments were made. Starting largely with primary energy. A lot of the adjustments were made on the primary energy, and this related to coal, related to the amount of diesel that was applied for. And of course, by making those adjustments, one of the drivers why those adjustments had to be made was because of the unrealized IPP projects that, as you can see in the first year, in the year FY 23-24, there was an adjustment done of 10 billion rands in terms of the PPAs that are not going to be realized in that year, mainly relating to, those ones are mainly related to the risk mitigation project, but there have also been some adjustments up on that based on the expected short-term power purchase agreements that may be entered into both in both years. So those have been included, the amounts have been adjusted upwards to accommodate for those that may be included. So a number of the IPP projects that are not going to be realized in the FY 23-24 have been moved over to the period of 24-25. So in the main, those were the main drivers for this change. So as indicated by the chairperson, is that the original application for Eskom for FY 23-24 was 334 billion, and that was adjusted down by 33 billion, and adjusted down to 303.922 billion. And for the financial year 24-25, it was the application was before RCAs was 365.195 million, and that has been adjusted down to 336.054 million in terms of the decision that was made by Nersa. Now, adding the 15 billion rands in terms of the government injection coming out of the court order of that settlement for the outstanding 59 billion, of which the agreement is that we'll be recovering 15 billion rands for the first 4 years and the final year it will be 14 billion, is that then it comes out to those numbers that are indicated there. But the point I want to stress is that in making these adjustments, the regulator was guided by the prevailing methodology. We did not deviate from the methodology. So wherever, in respect of whatever that the methodology, 2016 methodology was prescribing, we actually did not deviate from that as ordered by the courts. As indicated by the chairperson, this is what the approved revenues then translated to, as indicated in the first year. So that was, the headline, the numbers at the top there are different. But the actual translation are the ones that are in the table. For the percentage increase is 18.65% for FY 23-24 and 12.74% for the following financial year. Apologies for the column at the top dealing with numbers. I think these things do creep in. Apologies for that. I just wanted to point out that some of the issues that the regulator has been grappling with. In the main, it's been, as indicated, there was a change in the original, from the original application to the revised application that was submitted in September last year by Eskom, which had to take into account any of the changes that may have occurred between the time that we submitted the application originally to the time when this application was being considered. And the biggest change, really, which was the biggest driver, if you look, is actually, it emanates from purchases from IPPs. Is that in the original application, we were expecting that there will be 45 billion rands that would be of power to purchase from IPPs, but that was reduced down to 31,000 to 31 billion, largely as indicated because of the projects, the risk mitigation projects that will not be able to be realized in the period. That was the biggest driver for change. When that was then effected, it then forced Eskom to then say it needs to actually work its coal plants a little bit harder. So then we can see the upward adjustment on the coal-fired power stations. Although, as members of the regulator, we felt that it was definitely far less than what it should be. But the biggest change really related to the change in the diesel amount that was being applied for, from a shift of 211 billion to 2.5 billion rands in FY24, and 2532 to 2.5 billion rands in 2025. So in fact, when Eskom revised its application, it came with a revised application that had a 12% load factor on the use of OCGT. This was a serious concern for members. The challenge with that is that what was clear in terms of the analysis was that even at 12% open cycle gas turbine load factor, there was still a significant energy shortfall. In fact, if you look at the numbers at the bottom, at 12%, there is an energy shortfall to the extent of 25 terawatt hours and 19 terawatt hours for FY24, 2024 and 2025 respectively. In essence, what we are saying, although what was being applied for was a very significant shift from the target of 6% load factor to 12%, but that was not dealing with load shedding. So, in evaluating the request for this amount of diesel, therefore, the energy regulator then said it's not like what if the regulator were to give and analyze and request efficiencies from Eskom, that it could be deemed to be budgeting for load shedding, because the Eskom application itself, in fact, was budgeting for load shedding. But what we then were thinking is that perhaps there was some information that we don't have, which perhaps Eskom does have, that indicates why they would have applied for 12%. And in so applying, still have an energy shortfall. This was even worse when one considered the past. This is information is drawn from the Eskom website. Is that, as you can see, in the past year, for some times, Eskom was actually using OCGTs at load factors higher than 40%. But on average, is that it was the load factor on average last year, excluding the time when it was forced to not use diesel as much because of it had exhausted the budget, its own budget on in terms of the project, is that it has on average, Eskom was sitting at a close to 16.9% on average, the running average load factor for OCGT last year. So this kind of raised the question whether this excess use of OCGT would not result in any of these emergency plans, the plans that were designed to be used in case of emergencies for Black Start and all other provision of other ancillary services like voter control and things like that. When they are required, is that when they are used this excessively, will this not lead to these plans not being available when they are needed the most for the purposes for which they were installed? It was quite clear that the problem is somewhere at Eskom. As you can see, if you look at the increase in the unplanned capacity loss factor as well, basically in both, this graph shows both the unplanned and the other capacity load factors that have increased dramatically in the past year, to a point where at any one point in time, we find that only 44% of the coal power plants are available for production of electricity. So from where the regulator was sitting, it was then saying, are we addressing the correct problem? Are we incentivizing, could we be seen to be incentivizing inefficiencies within Eskom by allowing even the 12% that was applied for? Because it is quite clear that the problem lies in these capacity loss factors. The question is, are these not within Eskom's management to control? That, in fact, it raised another question that says, is Eskom maybe, because it became clear, and this is just data coming from the 10th, Tuesday the 10th, which, for instance, if you look at the red line, at the red bar here, it's quite clear that these OCGTs are now deployed virtually in every hour of the day. And it is also quite clear, if you look at this, when you look at the fact that the installed coal capacity at Eskom is to the tune of 39,000 megawatts, that, sometimes the coal that is used is less than 16,000 out of the 39,000. And at best is just above 18,000. Now, is this not where the focus should be? So I will stop here because I was just giving the reasons why the regulator made the decision it did in respect of the efficiency gains that it is seeking from Eskom, and not incentivizing Eskom to actually use the OCGTs instead of using the plan for what they were designed to be used for. I thank you. Over to you, Chairperson.